Instead of engaging respectfully and maturely to find solutions, the ANC Minister of Health, Aaron Motsoaledi, declared war on the GNU in front of the world at Davos this week. Motsoaledi told world leaders assembled at the World Economic Forum that he is fighting what he called a war against the people of South Africa who don't want their private medical aids expropriated and who don't want higher taxes to fund a new looting scheme and who don't want to see our healthcare system in South Africa destroyed. This is not how mature colleagues behave, that is not how you negotiate, and that is not how you compromise. It is arrogant and it is deeply disrespectful, not only to the Democratic Alliance, but to the other parties, to the Government of National Unity, who have also expressed their concerns about the NHI and who are also patiently waiting for a negotiation around this particular matter. It is a symptom of a continued lack of respect accorded to coalition partners as well as to the founding agreement. And most importantly, from international experience and local experience, this is not how healthy coalitions work. Whether the ANC likes it or not, the stability of this government, as well as the security of the President's own position, depends entirely on the relationship between the two largest parties to the Government of National Unity. In keeping with our mature approach to coalition government, the Democratic Alliance is therefore urgently seeking to pursue a reset in this relationship. To do so, I yesterday wrote directly to President Ramaphosa to do the following things: to object in the strongest possible terms to the fact that he simply signed the Expropriation Act this week in contravention of a clear legal opinion and concerns submitted by the Minister of Public Works that the Act is in fact unconstitutional and could quite easily be remedied by sending it back to Parliament. Secondly, to note the DA's implacable opposition to the inclusion of the NHI, and particularly the proposals to start to move to eliminate private medical aid and the continued assault on the private healthcare sector in South Africa contained in the documentation of the Medium-Term Development Plan, with, of course, the accompanying budgetary implications of this. Bear in mind again, we are in government to see economic growth and job creation and an end to poverty in South Africa. Every policy, every law, every initiative by government should be measured through the lens of the following things. Will this help grow the economy? Will it create jobs? And will it help lift more South Africans out of poverty? And finally, to record the failure to set up now an effective dispute resolution mechanism, as well as the clear abuse of the clearinghouse mechanism, which still does not have adopted terms of reference going forward. But most importantly, I notified the President that I was now invoking Section 19 of the Statement of Intent. Clause 19 was specifically put in place to deal with situations where disagreements within the coalition arose. Clause 19 codifies the procedure to be followed when differences arise between parties to the Government of National Unity. Clause 19.3 states, and I quote, "Sufficient consensus exists when parties to the GNU representing 60% of seats in the National Assembly agree," unquote. The only parties that represent 60% of the seats in the National Assembly are the African National Congress and the Democratic Alliance.
By the DA, I saw John Easthuisen saying that conflict between Sihle and Dean is quite interesting. that conflict. You don't have to be worried about it. I think Sihle is representing what we as the ANC support. And Dean is just been out of character. He must talk to his deputy. He cannot chastise a deputy minister. That's why the debate now degenerates about qualifications and all of that. Because the way he speaks to Sihle is like, Sihle is what is this? A ball boy who must carry his briefcase wherever he goes. And because he's a minister, he sits in cabinet, the deputy doesn't have an opinion. I was a deputy minister one time in government of a minister of the ANC. We're both from ANC. And this minister wanted me to be like a ball boy. I told him, no, I'm not here. I'm Kapana. I've come here to play my role. So Dean must speak to his deputy in government, and they must talk. And he cannot think that every time he faces a difficulty, he must run to the DA. No, he must talk to the deputy in government, and then they must face each other there. So that's what is important, rather than running to his party and shouting from outside. When he's got executive authority, he must deal with that matter properly and quite maturely in government. It's very difficult in the GNU because you account your party and you come with the mandate of your party in a very, very difficult terrain. So he must resolve issues maturely in government and talk to ministers. If they is not going to behave, then the chief executive officer of the republic, which is the president, who's driving cabinet, will have to intervene and will urge the president to intervene and deal and bring order in his cabinet in terms of his ministers and deputy ministers. So all the boxes have been ticked. Now that the DA and others wake up in their slumber as though this is new, they've not been aware of it. President Ramaphosa just woke up and formulated an act and decided to sign. That's not how things are done. It's basically to take shortcuts in the supply chain system of processing of bills in Parliament up until at the level of government. And if there's something unlawful in terms of the signing of this act, it can be ventilated in the courts and other terrains that are applicable to those who don't actually approve, rather than to bring GNU into this particular matter when it is a matter that was finalized long time ago. And what the president does when an act and a bill has undergone a particular process, he look at it in terms of the law, and when he get an advice that he cannot sign, he basically take it back to Parliament. The fact that the president have signed it means he's convinced that in terms of the law, this act is consistent with our constitutional prescripts. The DA knows, and everybody else, that this was not only in the pipeline, it was just a matter of time that the president will sign. There is, for instance, an e-hailing matter of the National Transport Act amendment that permitted the operation of e-hailing. It's in the desk of the president. He took it back, and then we went back to Parliament. I was Minister of Transport, and we were waiting for the president to basically respond to that.